Hello everyone, we have a game with the white pieces against Coltrane 7, rated 964. We open up with d4 attacking the center, threatening to play e4, controlling a big chunk of his territory. But he doesn't care and he just develops the knight. So we're going to put a second pawn in the center and open up both of our bishops. He now challenges our center with e5, but this allows us the possibility of kicking his knight, and I don't particularly see a good square for that knight. So I'm going to gain space for free with tempo on the knight, and now he has to go to an awkward square, like home. And that will give us a free hand to develop as we see fit. We could even push more pawns, gain more space. But we don't have to, we can just develop. Let's see where he puts his knight though. If he goes here, you kick it with c3, right? If he goes here, you can develop with a threat. You know, so depending on what he does, that determines what you do. So he goes here, which kind of fights for squares fights for squares with his other pieces. So it's kind of rough for him to develop. I think I will gain more space with the pawns. Really solidify this pawn chain in the center. I could develop my knight behind it. He immediately breaks everything I'm doing down with f5, which in theory kind of makes sense, but you'd probably want to be developed first and not just opening diagonals to your king with no pieces out. But who knows? This might just work. If we take this pawn, he's likely to take with the knight. I mean, we could just develop normally there. The thing is, I just don't want him playing d6. He solidifies his pawn chain. He protects the light squares. At what point can I play d6 so he can't? Like, can I do that now? It hits his knight. He really shouldn't move the knight due to this pawn. So if he takes, I get my queen in, hitting the center. It's a bit weird, suspicious. So takes here. Even if he lets me and just develops, and I take and he takes, what am I really doing there? But okay, so what if I push and he takes and I don't take with my queen, and I just leave his structure like that? I mean, it's all a bit suspicious. Let's just develop a piece. Let's just develop a piece. We're getting lost in the weeds. Trying to analyze like chess positions, the fundaments of them over the board in a 10-minute game. Okay, so he takes the pawn, but that allows us to bring our knight to this beautiful pseudo outpost. I mean, there is a pawn on the d file, but it can't ever really kick the knight, so it's basically an outpost. And now he just develops his knight and challenges our lovely piece on its lovely square. How dare he? If we take this knight, he's forced to recapture with the pawn. If we give this check, it would be checkmate, except he has knight blocks. So all of that would work a lot better if we had a bishop on this diagonal ready to take anything that hits the g6 square. And black's position looks mighty dubious. He plays c6, trying to break down our construction. He's attacking this pawn twice, threatening to win it. Now would be a perfect time to push, as he can't even take. But you have to look for better, and it just so happens we have a lot better here. So what's better than pushing. Now, if let's say you did push, he moves his knight. I mean, you have this wedge pawn. His development is really bad. He can't get the light square bishop out because he can't move the d pawn. That's really good. You could also take this knight, like we mentioned earlier. When he takes back, you can give this check. He has to block with the knight. You could then take with the bishop, check. He can't take with the pawn because the rook is hanging, but he can move the king. What's better than all of that? Checkmate in one. Smothered mate. Ha ha ha. 8-move checkmate against a 1000 rated player. You can do it too. You can do it too, folks. So we just put a pawn in the center. And he puts his knight out. So we take control of the whole center. We don't play games. And that's the problem with giving your opponent the whole center, is that when you do challenge it, you're not forcing the trade. He has the option of going past. So whoever gets there first has the option of pushing, meaning they're the ones who have the option of gaining space. See? So he has to move his knight. White's already better. We just gain more space, but you could just develop. You don't have to do this. He lashes out on the other side, which is probably premature. Who knows? I feel like d6 makes a lot more sense. We just develop a piece towards the center, defend the pawn, force move. Now automatically, you see they're saying he needs to put his knight here. I mean, his move is so natural, right? You just bring the knight out, challenge the center. It looks normal, but it goes from plus 0.8 to plus 1.8, which is a huge, difference. And that's the problem with playing these weird positions if you're not a computer. So we just bring out another piece towards the center, and then he blunders mate in one. So there's that. So just to drive the point home, when you give your opponent the center and challenge it, they can push past, right? Giving them a slight advantage. So when you put a pawn here, I can no longer play e4 because you have this barrier that I can't cross. And if I do, like, the fact that you're in time with your pawn in the center changes things. So let's say I play knight out and you just play a random move, and now I push in the center because it's supported. Because your pawn's already here, you can make this trade if you want to, which means I no longer have this strong pawn in the center. Neither do you, but it's just a trade. But you at least have the option of saying, okay, you only get one strong pawn on d4, not the duo, and you can't gain more space. But when you're late to the party, like this guy was, let's say you do it now, well, now you can't force this trade. I'm already at the barrier and it's my turn. I could just push, and you lost your opportunity to challenge this pawn with the d pawn. And that's the whole point of fighting for the center. It's the difference between me playing the position as white with this pawn structure, or with my pawn on e5 facing your king. So this is a lot more passive pawn wise than having my pawn on e5. So that's the whole thing, is your opponent going to stop you from crossing the barrier? That's what the center is, the barrier of his own. Anyway, just a bunch of random stuff that maybe you understood, maybe you didn't. Good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Goodbye.